Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome back to DJ's Workshop. All right, today we got a big project going on. We're basically going to be rebuilding the whole front end on my 2000 Eurovan. The reason I started to decide to do this was I was having an issue with the ABS system. So every once in a while, as I was braking, you would step on the brake and you would just get this thumping out of the brakes, kind of like a brake pulsation, but not really. It was the ABS activating. So I tried to figure out what was going on with it, and what I found was the ring on the axle for the ABS sensor was actually split, and it was giving a bad signal. So we decided, all right, we're going to replace the axle, and then we get the front end looked at, and there was a couple of small issues going on. We had a little bit of play in one of the tie rods and one of the ball joints. The boot was split. So I'm just going to go in and just redo this whole front end. So I'm going to put two new axles in. I'm going to put in new upper and lower ball joints. We're going to put in new inner and outer tie rods, and I'm going to replace all four shocks. This way everything's done. I don't have to worry about it. I don't want to have to go back in there again. All right, so I'm going to show you the parts that we have and a couple of specialty tools I had to buy. And then we'll get the van in here, get it up on jacks, and we'll get started. Okay, so this is all the stuff I'm going to need today. So as far as tools, I had to buy a couple of things. So we have some tie rod splitting tools just to make it easier. If you don't have them, you can usually just whack on the piece where it fits into and it'll break it loose, but it's usually better to use the correct tools. I did have to get a triple square 14 millimeter socket here because it does use those. This is a 1/2 inch drive on the lower ball joints. This is a tool I got to remove the inner tie rods. I'll show you the part number on that, and I'll show you how that works when we get to that. I also picked up this here, which is the upper ball joint tool. This is used to extract and install the upper ball joints. I'll show you how that works. Now, as far as parts, all right, so this is going to be the upper ball joints here. These are Miley heavy duties, and here's the part number. This is going to be your lower ball joint. Okay, and this one just has 2 bolts. It fits in like that. And there's your part number on that one. This is the tie rods, okay, the inner and the outer. And here's the part number on that one. These are the 2 axles. There is a left and right. One is slightly longer than the other. So this one is a 303/165. The other one is a 303/164. These are getting very difficult to find. Okay. The axles do come with new bolts. It's got a pretty huge Allen key on there. I'm not sure if I have that one. I may use the old bolts because they have a hex head on them. All right, and then the shocks, we're going with the Bilstein heavy duty shocks. So this one is a 24/019/118. Okay, and this is going to be the front shock. Actually, I'm not sure, that might be the real one. And then this is the other one, which is a 24/21/4230. Now you'll notice this one looks different on the bottom. So for whatever reason, Bilstein doesn't ship it with the bushings, so you have to buy new bushings. All right, and the part number on these bushings, I'll show you when I can actually read it. Okay, so it's a 114235030. Okay, you got to get 4 of these, the rubber bushings. And then we need 2 top bolts, which are longer bolts. Okay, I just got these just to have them because I don't know if the other ones are going to be all rusted or not. There's the part number on that one. And then also, it doesn't come with lower bolts. You can reuse the old ones, I guess, if you have to. But I opted to get some new ones. Okay, here's the part number on that. All right, so I think that's pretty much everything we're going to need. So next thing we're going to do is we'll get the van in here. We'll get it up on the jacks, get the wheels off, and get started. I did spray down everything underneath there with some penetrant a couple of weeks ago just to get it to start to seep in, just to try to hopefully make things go a little bit easier. The ball joint on the upper control arms is probably going to be the more difficult thing. They tend to corrode in there. I'm hoping it won't be that big a deal with this tool, that it'll pop right out for me. Other than that, it's just going to be a little bit of muscle work and take a little bit of time. So, all right, let's get the van in here and we'll get started. Okay, so the first thing is we got it up on the jack stands. So right behind where the mud flaps would be, there's a piece of frame here that you can put it on right in front of the gas tank there. So we got that up there. I got the jack on the subframe just for extra support. All right, so game plan now is we're going to take the shock off, get that out of the way. We're going to take this bolt out of the axle. We're going to take the caliper off, the rotor off, get that all out of the way. And then we'll start with maybe lower ball joint. This piece is going to come off of the upper ball joint, the adjuster. I'm going to have to hit this with a wire wheel, see if I can clean that a little bit, get that pin out of there. So let's just start some disassembly here and see how it goes. All right, first thing we're going to do is we'll get this caliper off of here. We're using a 21 millimeter. Okay, I'm going to stick a screwdriver in here just to kind of pry these brake pads apart a little bit, just to make it easier coming on and off. And we'll grab a little parts tray just to keep all our bolts together so they don't get lost. Okay, now we got to get something to tie this up out of the way. Okay, so you want to basically just suspend your caliper, piece of wire or something, just to keep it out of the way and not let it hang on the actual brake line. All right, so that's out of the way. Next thing, let's try to get this shock off of here. Again, that's going to be a 21. That's probably going to be a little stiff too. Okay, now there is a nut on, that's the nut, the bolt is on the other side. So we got to get something to hold that side. Okay, I got a big crescent wrench here we'll use. Okay, so to get this bolt, you got to have an extension. This bolt here is in the way from the shock. So what I did was I put a bottle jack under the lower control arm just to lift the pressure off of it a little bit, and that allows me to get this bolt out now. Okay, and we'll just keep this nut with this bolt so we don't lose that. And now we should be able to get the other shock bolt out. Okay, that one's actually a nut, not a bolt. Alright, so hopefully we can just pry that out of there now. Just like that. Okay. So there's that. Now the shock's out of the way. Now this is your ABS sensor. We're going to be pulling the hub off, so we're going to have to disconnect this. Okay. Alright, let's see if we can get this apart. Okay. So that's out of the way. Now when we pull the hub out, we'll have to worry about yanking on that wire and breaking it. Just tuck that up there. Alright, so I think at this point the next thing I want to do is clean this up a little bit with my wire wheel, see if I can get that pin out of there. And then we'll have to mark this so we get it back in the same spot. Okay, now somewhere in all of this there is a pin that has to come out. Okay, after you break through all the rust, you'll eventually see a pin in here. Okay, there's your pin. All corroded, not much left to it. And there it is. So that's what is basically holding that in there, other than the 20 years of rust. Alright, so I'll spray some penetrant in here. Let that do its job. Gonna shock it a little bit, so hopefully when we go to take it out, it'll loosen up for us. All right, next thing I want to do is I'm going to take this rotor off. All right, let's get a big nut on the end of it. Okay, this is a 27. Let's see if that'll come out willingly. Okay, that's going to need a little persuasion also, which I think pretty much everything on here is going to. Alright, so I get the feeling I should have left the caliper on here so that I could stick a screwdriver in there and keep it from turning. So I think we're going to have to put it back on there. Alright, let's back up a couple of steps here. Alright, so there's a tip for you. You want to take that nut off before you take the caliper off. This way you can stick something in there and hold it from turning. You're probably going to want to take those off in there also for the same reason. So let's see if we can get this off now. Okay. Alright, now this does come with a new bolt, but it's got a big Allen key, which I don't think I have one that size. So, I mean, this bolt looks fine. I'll probably just reuse this old bolt. Alright, now, before we go much further, probably a good idea at this point to get the bolts out of the axle. Alright, so the socket I got before was a just like a 1/2-inch drive socket. This set here just comes as the bit, so you need this is a 13 millimeter, and we're just going to see if that does the job now. Alright, so what we're looking at here, you can see, let's see if I can get the light in here. Alright, you can see the nuts on the axle. And it's a pretty small gap to try to get to them. You have to kind of, let me see if I can get this right here. You have to kind of go through this little gap. And you have to turn the rotor to line the bolt up to where you need it. Get that one out, turn the rotor again, line it up. It's going to be a little bit tedious, but that's what we got to do. All right, so let's see if we can get that out of there. Okay, so ended up being a 12mm triple square. I had to just kind of scrape out the grime out of the middle of the head just so that I could get a good bite on it, because obviously you don't want to be stripping out the head on here. So I'm going to say take your time when you do this just to make sure you don't have any issues. Because you definitely do not want to be screwing up one of these bolts tucked way down deep in there. Alright, so here's the bolt. All right. You can see there was some grime buildup in there. So what I was saying was you want to take a screwdriver or something and just dig all this crud out of here so you can get a deeper bite onto it. Alright, but there's one of the bolts. So now we have to take this screwdriver out of the caliper here so we can twist this rotor a little bit more. And we'll line up the next bolt. Okay, there's the next one. Make sure there's no crud in there. Alright, I'll slip this back in here. Make sure you get a good bite on that. Okay. This is like the scariest part. It's trying to get that loose and just praying that it doesn't break a strip on you. So get number 2 out. Alright, we'll get the rest of these bolts out and then we'll continue on. Alright, so we've managed to get all those bolts out without any incident. And let's see. At this point, I think we can take the caliper back off and get the rotor off. So let's do that. Okay. These brakes are almost new because I just replaced them not that long ago. So if you needed brakes, this would be obviously the time to do that. Okay, next thing we need to do is take this 18mm off of here. Just make sure it's marked where you want it. Okay, got that out. And now we gotta try and separate that. Okay. All right, now we have that separated. All right, next thing we want to do is take this lower ball joint off. So this has the 14mm triple square. Okay, there's one. And there's the other one. Okay. All right, so you want to just get up in here, and then you can separate that. There you go. Okay, there's your lower ball joint. All right, now, you can see this is all loose. Get the rest of that nut off of there. Okay, once you get that nut off, this little eccentric piece fits in the hub. All right, now we have the whole hub assembly off. Put that aside. All right, so for the lower ball joint, you take the nut off the bottom, you stick another fork in here, pry it loose. That's out. All right, now I got to get the axle out of here. It looks like this upper control arm is in the way a little bit. I'm going to see if I can try to just lift this up enough to clear to get that axle out of there. Okay, so we get the axle out. I got a feeling it's going to be fun getting the other one back in there, but we'll deal with that in a minute. All right, so next thing is we got to get this ball joint out, and then we got to get the tie rods out. All right, so let's move on. All right, so we're going to try this ball joint tool. You got one piece that goes like that. This piece is going to go under here like this. Fits in the tool like this. Alright, drop that in there. Tighten that set screw back up. Okay, now this cup fits on here. Back this out. Alright guys, let's hope this thing pops right out for us. That goes under there. sure that's on there. Looks like it's on there. Okay, let's see what size socket. Alright, so that's going to be a 24. Alright, we'll just start slowly cranking it down. Hopefully she pops for us. Okay, so I ended up putting a little bit of heat on there just to help it out because it was in there very tight. Alright, cool, so we got that out. So the only thing left now is just to do the tie rod, so we'll work on that next. Alright, so what I did was I just put a wrench on here to hold the tie rod assembly. You crack this nut loose and then you have to spin this off, okay? You need to count how many threads, how many times it turns. So it started in this position. I had to unthread it 25 times. Alright? So just to double check. Alright, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, so that's where it starts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, so 25 revolutions. Alright, so the next thing you need to do is you need to pop the boot off of this ring and push it back. Okay? So it grabs onto here. So you gotta pop that off, slide it back. This is where you're gonna grab the tie rod to unthread it. Alright, so let me grab the tool, I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so you're gonna take one of these crowfoot pieces. You're gonna put it on there. And now you're gonna take this piece and it's gonna slide in and then lock in like that. So slide it right over here. And then you stick your 1/2 inch in here. Alright, so what I did, I got the tool locked on there. It kind of flops around a little bit. I put a jack stand under here just to hold it from moving around. And then I was able to crack it loose that way.
Okay, and now we have the tie rod out of there. So there's the old one. All right. So now we're just going to repeat that to put the new one in. Okay, got the new one started. Thread that in there. Okay, once you feel it locked down, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, now you do have to get this tie rod off of here to get that tool back on there. Okay, now slip this tool back on here. Okay, so we got it screwed into that side. We pulled the boot back out, put it back on that O-ring. Now we got the new tie rod end, and we got to do 25 threads. So let's get it started. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, so now at that point we need to lock in the nut on the back. Okay, once you have that jam nut locked in there, now that's good to go. Let's push that out of the way, and we'll get back to, I guess we'll try to put the new axle in next. Alright, so I put a pry bar in here, just lifted this up a little bit so that I could pop the axle in there. Alright, now I gotta try and line up all the bolts and get those started. Alright, next thing I want to do is just kind of clean this out. Just make sure that the new bolt joints will slide in there easy. Good. Alright, I'll spray a little lube on here. To help it out a little bit. Okay, now when we press in the new ball joint, it's going to go the opposite. Instead of pushing down, it's going to pull it up. So there's a different adapter. This goes on the outside ring. And then there's a different fork that you use on that one. Okay. It's going to go up in there. And then you can see the ball joint's going to fit right inside of there. That's going to start there. Okay, now we just got to press that into there. Go a little bit, and then we'll check it to make sure it's going in straight. Okay, so once you get it pressed in, okay, take that off, and then we'll just put that ring back on there, and then that'll be all set. Alright guys, so my battery ended up dying as I was reassembling everything, but it's pretty much just the opposite of how you took it apart. The fun part was trying to get those bolts back into the axle, into the transmission. I ended up having to put a jack under here and lift this up a little bit to kind of get a better straighter angle, because it just didn't want to go in otherwise. Other than that, bolt up your tie rod, bolt up your upper ball joint, make sure you get the clip in the top here. I did realign my marks, if you can see them on there. I realigned the marks on here so that the alignment would be pretty much where it was. Put the shock back in, bolt up the caliper, make sure that's all good, put this bolt back in, and then I had to take the tensioner, the bolt for the torsion bar, and re-secure that again. So this side is pretty much done. Alright, and now I'm going to tackle the other side. This took me probably a good 5 hours to do, so hopefully the other side goes a little bit quicker, but I just want to get this done. So that's pretty much what's involved. It is a big job, a lot of work, but it'll be worth it once it's all done. Front end is going to be all rebuilt. Alright guys, hope that helps. If you have any questions, leave them below, any comments, that's fine. Otherwise, I am going to carry on, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Alright, keep a thumbs up, a like, a share, subscribe if you haven't, and we'll catch you later.